Thanks, Barry. Good afternoon. You've nearly survived the endurance contest, so one more speaker, but it's a good one. We saved one of the best for last. I am pleased this afternoon to introduce to you Senior Vice President from Exxon Mobil Chemical Company, which is one of my very, very favorite companies in the world, by the way. And he is a Senior Vice President of Global Operations out of Houston. In this position, he's responsible for the integrated manufacturing operations in North America and Latin America, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. He hopes to have Antarctica added to this so he can continue in his quest for world domination. In addition, he's responsible for engineering and manufacturing support in the safety, health, and environmental organizations of Exxon Mobil. He's a native of Middleport, New York. He is a Yankee. Please don't hold that against him. He's a graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology. He joined Mobil Oil and was obviously punished because he was sent to the Buffalo refinery as project engineer in 1980. And he's advanced, obviously, through increasingly responsible management positions. He's been the manager of the Exxon Mobil Baton Rouge refinery, the project executive in Exxon Mobil's development company, and the refining director for Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Bruce March.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me thank Stephen Don Carlos for that very kind introduction. I've never been, even though I was born and raised in New York, I've never been unwelcome in the state of Texas. So we've enjoyed a very, very long partnership with the city of Baytown and Exxon Mobil. And typically that can only happen with very, very strong leaders from both the company and from the city of Baytown. And Mayor Don Carlos is in a long line of outstanding elected officials in the city of Baytown. We really appreciate the long partnership we've had with you. Thank you very much. And let me also start by thanking the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region for sponsoring this great industry forum. I'm really thrilled to see the great attendance. I know I'm your last speaker of the day, so I'm glad to be here. And it's really to highlight a very, very bright future for the petrochemical industry in the U.S. Gulf Coast, which today in the Exxon Mobil world is the highlight of our corporation, believe it or not, our chemicals business. That bright future is stimulating incredible growth here at the Port of Houston and elsewhere all through Gulf Coast manufacturing facilities. Our company has seen a lot of growth since it began operations in the Houston Ship Channel 95 years ago. Our Baytown facilities now stretch to very close to 3,500 acres, and we're one of the port's biggest customers. In fact, we're expanding our facilities to take advantage of growing supplies of gas from the extraordinary shale resource that's being developed here in Texas and other places in North America. This shale gas is a true game changer, and it's rejuvenating America's petrochemical industry and benefiting all different aspects of manufacturing across the United States. New domestic supplies of affordable natural gas and natural gas liquids have created a competitive advantage for U.S. manufacturers. That's led to greater investment, to industry growth, and the most important thing, new jobs. For those who have been in the chemical business for a long time, it's quite amazing to see the growth in U.S. petrochemical manufacturing. The state of Texas will soon be a much larger export hub for petrochemicals, and new production will be exported through the Port of Houston. So over the next few minutes, I'd like to talk to you about this petrochemical industry growth and how Exxon Mobil and the Port of Houston are feeling its impacts locally. There's few business sectors in the world as optimistic about their own future as the chemical industry. Over the next decade, Exxon Mobil expects that global chemical demands are going to grow at about 4% per year. And that's a faster pace than energy demand and global economic growth. A decade from now, we expect global demand for chemicals to be nearly 50% larger, and our U.S. petrochemical manufacturing industry will be a great participant in this growth opportunity. Now, this 4% per year growth rate is not a new forecast. The chart on the left shows this global growth rate for the past 15 years. Most of the growth in chemicals production, however, has occurred in Asia and in the Middle East. Looking forward, not all places in the world are going to grow at this very robust 4% per year rate. The chart on the right shows that almost all of the future growth will come from non-OECD countries, and about 2/3 of that growth will be centered in Asia. You may be asking yourself, what's driving the rise in this rise in increase in chemicals demands? The main driver is population growth. From now to the year 2040, the global population is expected to rise from a little over 7 billion people today to about 9 billion people. But more important to the high growth rate in chemicals demands are what Exxon Mobil calls the megatrends. The first megatrend is urbanization. That's the movement of people from rural to urban settings. And when that occurs, it produces a net increase in households, because typically city households have fewer people in it. So more households mean more demand for energy and for chemicals. Second megatrend is rising incomes and a growing middle class. When people reach the middle class, their quality of life improves tremendously. That improvement in their living standards will drive a higher demand for products made from petrochemicals. That's everything from packaged goods to appliances to automobiles. Third megatrend is sustainability, and that's something in this industry that's important to all of us. The chemical industry is not only essential to enabling human progress, it's also essential to reducing the environmental impact of that human progress. So let's take a closer look at these megatrends and how increasing standards of living drive growth in chemical demands. The chart on the left shows the absolute dollar amount of GDP per capita in the year 2040 compared with 2014 being shown by those dotted lines on the bars. While developed OECD economies will continue to improve, most notable is the productive output that's forecasted to more than double in China and in India. At this point in time, it's really important to point out that this is just not about GDP statistics. This is about people improving their daily lives. And as it has played an important part in modern economies, energy and petrochemicals will play a big part in the developing world. Take a look at the pictures on the right. Today, over 2.5 billion people have no access to modern cooking fuels. In the middle, people everywhere can greatly benefit from more modern machinery. And 1.2 billion in the world today have no access at all to electricity. So in this respect, it's surely a good news story as people lift themselves out of poverty and seek the modern comforts that we consider in the developed world as essential. As people lift themselves away from poverty, economists all around the world monitor the number of families that enter the middle class. According to the Brookings Institution, the number of people who earn enough to be considered middle class will more than double from about 2 billion families today to nearly 5 billion in 2030. Most of these new members of the middle class will be living in China and in India, where their per capita income is expected to triple through 2040. But it's not just China and it's not just India. Our company is gearing up to meet the needs of other developing countries whose rising populations and increasing living standards will require significantly more petrochemicals in the coming decades. We've color-coded some of these key growth countries. You can see them: Brazil, South Africa, Turkey, Thailand, and Indonesia. Again, when families enter the middle class in countries where they live, their quality of life improves tremendously, and their ability to purchase modern conveniences greatly goes up. Let's take a closer look at one of these important changes in lifestyle. We take it for granted, but shopping for food in a supermarket isn't something that everyone does around the world today, and it's a tremendous convenience compared to shopping for food on a daily basis from a wet market. Plastic film can increase the shelf life of fruits, vegetables, meats from a period of days to several weeks. And in the developing world today, as much of a third of all food that's grown is lost to spoilage. That's at an estimated cost of about $700 billion per year. If you could reduce this spoilage to near zero, we could feed in the world an additional 2 billion people, much of that from the use of plastics. Beyond population and living standards, the third megatrend driving petrochemical demand is sustainability. Now more than ever, the world is looking for affordable, sustainable, and safe products. Many of these products are made from chemicals, products like insulation that reduces the amount of energy needed to heat and to cool homes, products like lightweight packaging that extends the life of food and reduces the energy needed for shipping of food products. And finally, some advanced plastics that make cars safer and, most importantly, more fuel efficient. According to a study by McKinsey, over their life cycle, these chemical products made right here on the Gulf Coast save twice the amount of greenhouse gases than the greenhouse gas amount when they were created. An amazing statistic. So sustainability will remain a driving force behind the demand for petrochemicals for a long time. As an example, let me touch upon how petrochemicals have made cars better. Since the 1980s, plastics have been a key raw material to provide many of the enhancements we've seen in today's automobiles. From enhanced safety to improved aerodynamics, significant weight reduction, the wide range of plastics have provided engineers with a broad range of tools to make this possible. Without plastics in today's cars, those cars would be much heavier and much less fuel efficient. And without today's modern plastics, we simply would not have an improved balance of mobility, convenience, entertainment, improved safety, and efficiency. So as chemical makers, we're very proud of the contributions that we make every day to sustainability. And I look in the audience, many of you are my age. Can you remember when your father or mother took you to the first car wash, how you had to bring a towel with you so the windows didn't leak so bad? We make those plastics today that prevent all that leakage and make life a lot better. Now, as recently as the 1980s, the chemical industry located its facilities very close to where their demands were. For example, we built manufacturing plants in North America to supply the North American markets. That began to change in the 1980s and the 1990s. The Middle East started to convert a very large supply of stranded, low-value gas into petrochemicals and shipping them interregionally to Asia and into some mature markets like Europe. This availability of abundant and advantaged feedstock really redefined the chemical industry as we know it today. Recently, right here in North America, the combination of two technologies, that's horizontal drilling and hydraulic fracturing, has unlocked vast new supplies of shale gas and the associated liquids that comes with the gas. Thanks to this, North America now has one of the largest resource bases in the world, and it supplies advantaged feedstock and advantaged energy to the chemical industry. The availability of this low-cost natural gas has been a game-changing for the U.S. chemical industry. Before the development of shale gas, the United States was a gas-importing nation. But today, it's become a global leading producer. This has lowered the cost of ethane and other light natural gas feedstocks compared to our international competitors using liquids that are derived from crude oil. Indeed, the prices for North American natural gas liquids feedstocks have fallen by half since 2008. Of course, the recent decline in oil prices has reduced some of that advantage, but because of U.S. shale gas resources, U.S. chemical producers still have a very strong incentive to invest in the U.S. chemical industry. Now, this chart is from the American Chemistry Council, and it illustrates how the United States, since 2005, moved from the highest cost producer of ethylene, that's the building block for many petrochemicals, to today, we're one of the lowest cost producers in the world. The chemical industry today is an $800 billion enterprise, and it's one of America's most significant manufacturing industries. Today, the American chemical industry produces about 15% of the world's chemicals and is one of the country's largest exporters, accounting for about 14% of all U.S. exports. And due to that abundant and advantaged shale gas feedstock, gross exports of key chemicals could more than double by the year 2030. That's because an incredible number of new chemical production projects have been announced since 2010, with a total investment value in North America of over $150 billion. That capital investment could support more than 700,000 new jobs across the U.S. economy in a very short period of time. So yes, the U.S. is the place for chemical companies to invest, and the U.S. Gulf Coast is the epicenter of these investments. Now, my company, Mobil Chemicals, is constructing a multi-billion-dollar ethane steam cracker at our Baytown, Texas complex. You can see the picture there that's just a few months old now. And downstream on the value chain, we're also constructing 2 new world-scale high-performance polyethylene lines that are being built at our Mount Bellevue plastics plant, just a few miles away from our Baytown facility. And we expect to export much of this new production capacity, and we're targeting the growing demands from middle-class family growth in the developing economies I talked about earlier. Our focus is on the higher value performance polyethylene, where we're already a leader, and we're rapidly extending that family of polyethylene products. We're also focused on packaging, particularly food packaging, that brings sustainable solutions to the world's developing economies. Again, all of that supports a growing population and supports and is aligned with the megatrends of a growing middle class all around the world. But for us, it's not just about the steel in the ground that you see in this picture. It's not just about a new steam cracker or new polyethylene reactors. It's about supplying these products to our customers all around the world and improving their standards of living. Before ExxonMobil began its Baytown expansion project, we conducted an economic benefits study to understand its potential impacts. The expansion at Baytown and Mount Bellevue is estimated to create approximately 10,000 construction jobs, 350 permanent ExxonMobil jobs in the Baytown area, and 3,700 related jobs in the local community when these facilities, of course, become operational. The jobs are not limited to chemical and supporting industries, but include consumer products and the service industries. The project could generate regional economic benefits of about $870 million per year and well over $3 billion each year nationally. In addition to this Baytown expansion, ExxonMobil is studying the potential development of a jointly owned petrochemical complex either in the Texas or the Louisiana Gulf Coast region. This project that was recently announced we envision to be with our joint venture partner, SABIC. And if it moves forward, it would include another ethane steam cracker and units to make monoethylene glycol and polyethylene. This second growth project will provide even greater economic benefits as it will likely be a greenfield construction project. And we're very excited about it. Similar to ExxonMobil's Baytown expansion, there are 6 U.S. steam crackers are under construction today, with total ethylene capacity of around 8 million tons per year. All these new projects, as you can see on this graph, will come online sometime in 2017 or 2018. Also in the works are several expansions of existing steam crackers, which will add about another 750,000 tons per year of ethylene production. Together, when finished, this expansion will account for around an increase of about a third of our today's current U.S. capacity base. So chemical producers are clearly looking to take advantage of continued low natural gas prices here in the U.S., and that those low natural gas prices, low ethane prices, are enabling these projects. Due to the low forecasted growth in North American chemical demand, you saw that on one of my very first slides, we expect that the vast majority of new olefin production will be converted into solid plastic resins, polyethylene, and exported. And it will be happening soon. Now, this simple chart shows that petrochemical companies are planning their logistics now for all this new capacity. The graphic shows different options for packaging and shipping for Gulf Coast plastics producers. That's, of course, using trucking and trains to get to an export port. Underlying big billion-dollar expansions, of course, we all need competitive supply chains to support these very large capital investments. Now, a few years ago, the Port of Houston conducted a survey of plastic manufacturers to anticipate their increase in dry cargo container volume as a result of the chemical capacity expansion I just showed you. The survey results indicated that the port would expand by about 125,000 container units, and that's from the current level of about little over 50,000. That's a real impressive increase of over 200,000 or 200%. However, if all of the new industry solid plastic capacity was exported through the Port of Houston, this number could grow to nearly 400,000 container units. And that 400,000 container units number could present the potential for the port to capture even further growth opportunity. So let's take a quick look at what's happening at the Port of Houston to support and capture petrochemical industry growth. I'll repeat some of the highlights that Roger Gunther shared with us earlier, but I think that repetition's okay because it's pretty exciting and there's some very important improvements underway. It's been about 6 years since the Panamanian government authorized its $5 billion Panama Canal expansion project. And with the opening of the new expansion just a few months ago in June, Houston and the port have already begun to feel its impact. The expansion includes widening and deepening the navigation channels along the waterway and creating a third lane of traffic. That doubles the canal's capacity, allowing the Port of Houston to import and export more containerized cargo from Asia. This is a boon for the Houston shipping industry, which historically has been somewhat limited to the size of the Panama Canal. With the expansion, vessels as large as 13,000 TEUs can pass through the canal. Previously, all vessels going through the Panama Canal were capped at about 5,000 TEUs. And the Port of Houston has typically handled vessels of around 4,500 TEU, but is expecting with this expansion and growth to handle upwards of 8,000 to 10,000 TEU vessels with the widened Panama Canal. Growth is also a strategic goal for the Port of Houston. It's investing $1.7 billion in improvements in a 10-year enhancement plan that should finish around 2023. With that investment, the port expects its annual capacity to grow to over 5 million TEUs from the current 3 million TEU level. The improvements include strategic upgrades to the channels at Barber's Cut, Bayport terminals that accommodates these larger vessels. Widening and deepening the terminals enables ships with drafts up to 45 feet to use those facilities. And you heard both from Roger and our elected officials the efforts to keep that draft at 45 feet so these bigger vessels can use these facilities. And on the land side, the port has acquired 4 new super cranes that can handle larger container ships that will be calling at the terminals, again, as a result of the canal's expansion. Now, I'm going to guess that not many of you know what we mean when we say we're going to ship polyethylene all around the world. Well, the normal format for that is we take this polyethylene resin and we package it in 25-kilogram plastic bags. We secure these bags on pallets, put shrink wrap around the pallets, and load the pallets into ocean-going shipping containers. Because of our location near the port of Houston, our most logical export port for these containers is, in fact, the Port of Houston. Unfortunately, when we export these products through the Port of Houston today, we're not able to fully load these shipping containers because to do so could cause us to exceed current road weight limits. Typically, today, we underload our containers by about 10% versus the maximum the containers could load. This creates some significant inefficiencies in our logistics operations because the containers themselves will remain underloaded throughout their full journey to their end destination, which typically is ports and markets in Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Now, other major container ports in the United States have created heavy haul routes that allow heavier loads for ocean-going containers. We at Exxon Mobil support the creation of heavy haul routes in and around the Houston area. That's to safely transport full containers, from packaging facilities to the Port of Houston. And as a responsible member of our communities in Houston and Texas, our company also supports tying this heavy haul road permitting to the use of 6-axle trucks, which will mitigate safety and road wear concerns and ensuring that the heavier containers can be shipped while maintaining or perhaps even improving current road safety and current road wear standards. Our goal is to increase the productivity of Houston's export-related shipping while ensuring safety for our local communities and protecting the integrity of local roads through enhanced weight distribution. So in closing, I think you'll agree with me that both the U.S. Gulf Coast petrochemical industry and the Port of Houston are both together looking at a bright future and a great partnership to continue. For those of you that have been in the chemical business for a while, it's quite amazing to think that Texas will soon be one of the biggest major export hubs for petrochemicals. We simply never imagined that we'd have the economics to compete in global markets from right here. Shale gas, of course, has been the game changer, and all this new production represents an enormous opportunity for our manufacturing facilities and for the Port of Houston. It's great news for the city, great news for the state of Texas. Our industry, as well as the Houston Ship Channel, are looking at a bright future with the strong global demands and continued robust growth.